Yo, what's up, everybody? Once again, it's your boy Bretty Bungetty here, and we're going to talk about the fallout from Slammiversary, the TNA Impact episode that dropped Thursday, July 27th. Um, but before we get into that, please make sure you click like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and make sure that you comment. Um, Let me know your opinions on this episode. I hear a lot of people are a little torn on it. They're expecting a Raw after WrestleMania type episode. I am pretty positive on this episode because I feel like it's resetting. It's like you get a season finale of your favorite TV show, and then they got to kind of issue and move everyone into place to further along the stories here. So I feel like this was just kind of a reposition to let us kind of know we're on the road for Bound for Glory, and here are our chess pieces getting set up. So once again, let me know in the comments how you felt about this episode, and I'll get into my review right now. We'll start with the opening segment. Um, so TNA Impact starts. This is live episode, and the first thing that pops up, Santino's music hits, and here he comes. Santino, if you watch NXT, you've seen him on NXT this last week, and first thing he comes out to the ring, he says that he's unhappy with the results of Slammiversary, like most of you are, and he's gonna take matters into his own hands. Now, if you watch NXT, then you saw that he came out and he issued a challenge to Ethan Page for their Canadian North American title. They kind of had an argument over who was the better Canadian, and that's how the match got booked. So, um, Santino said he also is going to put people in the proper place to earn these titles and then take some of NXT's as well. So that cues the music for Masha Slamovich, and she comes out and there's like no pop, no reaction. First thing that I think is, what is she wearing? And then my wife looks at the screen, and the first thing that she says is, what is Masha wearing? But, Masha, she's, up until now, she's always been just this kind of Russian speaking character that, she doesn't really get to say much. And, she's experimenting. So she's finding herself here. And we give Masha props for that. She's a fantastic wrestler and a fantastic athlete, but she's, improving on the things that she needs to improve upon. So she comes out here and she says to Santino that she's ready to exercise her rematch clause because she lost the knockouts title to JCJ. This is kind of a little bit of an awkward segment. Santino says he'll grant it, and then she kind of heads her way back and cue the next part of this segment, which is the system comes out. Babyface system. Alicia Edwards gives Masha a fist pump. Um, the the system come out and they're giving a rah-rah speech about how they bleed TNA. Eddie Edwards and Moose have been here for 10 years, and now it's time for TNA to kind of stand their ground. And if there's going to be some sort of war with NXT, that they want to be on the front line. And Moose gives this impassionate speech. It's a pretty fire promo, to be honest. Um, and he eventually ends up calling out Trick Williams. So Trick Williams comes out. He's with First Class, AJ Francis, and Casey Navarro to the side of him, and Trick makes a very valid point. He says, "Moose, you just lost your title to Leon Slater. You must be stupid calling me out." And it's like, yeah, he makes sense here. You did just lose your title. How you gonna try and call out the champion and get his title? But you know, so Trick Williams was talking about how he's the biggest draw in TNA. He's the face of the franchise essentially now, and he says he starts spitting some rap bars. He mentions that the system don't have enough to take him out, and they need to order 4 more guys like Mustafa Ali, and then cue Mustafa Ali in the order for. So now Mustafa Ali, he comes out and he says, Trick, don't you mention my good name ever again, or I'm going to bury you like the Undertaker. Now, it was a cheap pop, but the way he delivered it made it seem like he meant business. Um, so then, I might have forgot this part, but the system says that they're the greatest faction in TNA history. So this is why Mustafa comes out as well, and the Order 4 come out because they're gonna order over faction supremacy here. So the Order 4 comes out, they march to the ring, and then a melee ensues, and they go to a commercial break. Uh, So now, just because we're on the topic of this, I'm going to introduce a new segment to y'all that I kind of like to call fantasy booking. So, fantasy booking is just some hypotheticals. It's not necessarily things that I would want to happen or anything like that, but fantasy booking is just hypotheticals and ideas that we spit out. So I know that most of TNA fans kind of are of the thought that Bound for Glory is going to come along and Mike Santana is going to end up recapturing the TNA heavyweight title from Trick Williams, um, and bringing TNA back to its essence. Right? He wins it for us. But in this edition of Fantasy Booking, I'm gonna suggest something else. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. So, what if instead of Mike Santana winning this title back for TNA, winning it off of Trick Williams from NXT, what if Mustafa Ali is the one that wins it back? Now, you think about it. Ever since Mustafa Ali has came to TNA, he's been saying and campaigning, I am the leader and the champion that you need. What if you let him fulfill that and he becomes the champion, the unlikable leader that wins the belt back for TNA? I think that's pretty interesting. Once again, and y'all let me know what you think, and then you can reheat up the feud of Mike Santana and Mustafa Ali, in which Mustafa Ali he tried to break Mike Santana. He ends up losing the feud, and then Mustafa Ali is broken. Now both of them kind of have rekindled their flame, and we get one more match out of it. What y'all think? Let me know what you think about this edition of Fantasy Booking. I know that's a little annoying, but it's fun. So, moving along forward in the show, the next match that happens is the Elegance brand will be heading up, going against the Inspiration and a mystery partner, right? Now, TNA fans, we're so used to the hometown man and these mystery partners essentially not being anything worth any note. So, what should we expect here this time? So Elegance brand comes out, the personal concierge introduce them. He gets the heat. He knows how to get cheap heat, and he knows how to get this crowd going. So he gets his heat. The Inspiration comes out with their song "Sing" by Harley Cameron. um, And then it's time for their mystery partner to come out. So the music kicks, and this sounds like Trick Williams' theme song without the horns. Like it's the same 4-bar measure with some trap drums on it. And on the LED screen, it says Mara Sade. Now, if anyone's been following, Mara Sade is the former NXT wrestler that was known as Jakara Jackson. She's been working in the Indies, and I'll tell you what, this is a pretty impressive signing by TNA. This is a nice little get here. You know, the match starts. It started out a little sloppy, and then they kind of worked their way into it. There were some pretty good sequences going on. We had Ash by Elegance did like a little back handspring elbow shot, which was followed up by Heather with a little kick, and then as I forgot who the opponent was, rolled to the outside. M by Elegance, Maggie, gave her another kick. It was a nice like 3-way team sequence. Another highlight of the match was so it was a team maneuver. It was Heather did what I'm gonna call the Heather Kinrana. TNA, don't trademark it. The Heather Kinrana to Maggie, which turned into a swanton onto Cassie Lee, I believe it was, or maybe it was Jessie McKay. And then there was a really good sequence where they let Mara Sade show her abilities. She gets a hot tag. She comes in. She does a tope, a suicide dive. She does a suicide dive onto the Elegance brand. She comes in. She does a tornado DDT that looks really good. And the inspiration comes in, and they hit their finisher, the idolizer on Heather. So we'll probably see the feud between, Heather by Elegance, the Elegance brand versus Inspiration. It'll probably be another tag team title match, and I suspect the Inspiration will be capturing it sometimes. So moving along in the show. This show was very promo heavy. There wasn't a lot of action inside of the ring. A lot of promos. Like I said, it was putting the pieces into place for us to kind of know what the road to Slammiversary is, or not Slammiversary, Bound for Glory, and to set up Emergence. I think is the next TNA Plus special. Set up Emergence. So there's a couple backstage interviews and promos here. Gabby Laspiza is replacing, what's her name? I feel silly. Gia Miller as the ringside correspondent, I guess. So she goes into the back. She tries to interview Mike Santana. She asks him about the results from Slammiversary, and Santana doesn't really respond. So she walks over. She sees Indy Hartwell just kind of chilling, posted up over there. So she interviews Indy. Indy mentions what Tessa did on Slammiversary was disgraceful. And then Danny Luna comes over and she essentially thanks Indy for, I forgot what happened. It was like last week. Danny Luna was attacked by someone and Indy Hartwell helped her out. So then Victoria Fox comes out of here. Victoria Crawford, formerly known as Alicia Fox. I do that all the time. And Victoria Crawford, she comes over to Indy and Danny Luna. She says, "Hey, I'm looking to mentor you guys. You guys need mentors. You got a lot of potential." Then Indy says, "Girl, are you crazy? You just was a part of the stuff that Tesla was doing. Like, come on. Why would I let you mentor me when you was just jumping GML? And Danny Luna is like, no. So then Victoria Crawford goes up. She says she's gonna go talk to Santino to get some match. I believe it was revealed later in the day on social media. I don't remember what the match was exactly. Sorry about that. If it comes back to me, I'll let y'all know. So then there's another backstage segment, and it's Eric Young, and he's angry about NXT wrestlers holding TNA titles, and he says that it's time for him to cleanse TNA. He's got the Northern Armory with him, uh, Travis Williams and Judas Icarus, and they're just standing there like two chihuahuas. They don't really say anything, which is sad to me because if you watch Sinner and Saint, Travis Williams and Judas Icarus, if you watch them in the Indies performances, if you watch episodes of Explosion, these guys are fantastic and they're a great tag team. They've been co-signed by Motor City Machine Guns. Um, if you got an hour to spare, there's a great match on YouTube from Prestige Wrestling. It's Judas Icarus versus our old TNA buddy Alan Angels. It's a 51-minute cage match. Fantastic match. So make sure you please check that out as well. TNA, give the Northern Armory something to do, please. Thank you. So then after that, there's another promo, but these ones are in ring. So Leon Slater comes out, and this boy he's a prodigy. Everyone knows that Leon Slater is good. Are they positioning him to be the face of TNA? I think so. I hope so. Growing up in the UK, he probably was a TNA fan for a very long time. So Leon Slater, he comes out, he's doing this in-ring promo like a seasoned professional. He's got the crowd going. He's saying he's going to bring the X Division back to its roots. He's talking about it's going to be based on speed and agility. Talk about Samoa Joe, Amazing Red, AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, all of the TNA legends that have been in that X Division. And then he talks about his interaction with AJ Styles, how it was great, and then he also, essentially calls out the Hardys and thanks them for everything that they do. So then the Hardys come out, you know, they get their crowd going. Their presence alone is enough to get their crowd going. So they come out, they say their little spiel, and then Steve Maclin comes. So in the ring, we got all of the male champions in TNA. And Steve Maclin, now this dude was on fire with his promo. He's talking about how if anyone wants to come over here in TNA, they're going to have to go through him. He's going to hold the line. And I'm sitting here thinking, man, I could tell that military training did well because this is a rah-rah speech that I really feel right here. Like I'm ready to run in the ring. Not that I could do much, but I'm ready to run into the ring and help out TNA. And he's saying we're gonna hold the line. So, big up to Steve Maclin. I hope they give you a lot to do, and I hope that your title is one that continues to be serious. It would have been nice to see you defend it at Slammiversary, but I digress. So then we move along, and it's essentially Mass Warner versus Jake something in a no DQ match. This no DQ match was like a hardcore match. So they got all types of good stuff going here. Yeah, you just saw me flip my hammer. That's all good. But there was a few good spots here. It was a pretty good hard hitting match. You know, it's kind of what you expect from these two. Um, Mance Warner hit Jake something with a really good superplex that went through the chairs, through some chairs, and it hit hard. It looked like, that hurt a bit. Um, then they go to the outside. Jake something pulls out my least favorite weapon in wrestling, the thumbtacks. Can we stop doing thumbtacks, y'all, please? um, so he hits him with a back suplex on these thumbtacks, and I see most of the thumbtacks are sticking in Jake something's left arm. There's barely any in Mance Warner. His arm starts bleeding and all that. So shortly after that, they go back into the ring. Jake something hits him with Into the Void, and he gets the victory. Now, essentially, I think that this match was made just to see who will be in the one-on-one match for Steve Macklin for his international title. Um, the international title, and I'm all for another Jake something versus Steve Macklin match. Them two hard-hitting boys, and they're gonna put that work in. Um, so yeah, let's get that going. Maybe for Emergence, I'll be watching. So once again, as we progress through the episode, JC Jane comes out. Um, I didn't spell it. Anyways, JC Jane comes out, and if you've seen my other pods, you know that creatively I'm not the biggest fan of the NXT and TNA partnership. Right? Creatively, I understand what it does for business and why TNA is letting themselves get kind of simped out here. But one thing that I'm really consistent on is that I rate JC Jane. I think she's a great promo, or not great promo. She's great in the ring, and she's a good promo. And I really like this promo here. JC Jane, she came out, she said, "What did y'all think that a woman from the deepest division, women's division in history, wasn't going to win in this match?" But she said, it's no disrespect for the TNA knockouts. She wants to have a long reign as the TNA champion. And you know what? I'm looking at the TNA knockouts roster page, and I know that it's improved a lot, but I would be okay with JC holding the title for a little bit. I know they probably are wanting to position Indy Hartwell to recapture the TNA knockouts title from JC, but you know, uh, you know, I'm okay with JC having it for a while. So then she kind of goes through every individual on the TNA knockouts. She mentions the undeniable diamond, aka Tessa, that's always suspended. She says that, you know, Rosemary and Victoria Crawford are certifiably crazy. They should be in an insane asylum. She mentions Indy Hartwell calling herself the knockout, but she ain't really done anything. So I thought this was a good establishing promo to give us an idea of where JC's head is at, and maybe a look into the future to see future booking, not fantasy booking, future booking. Um, and if they let JC kind of rock with this title for a while, that's all right. Uh, and then after that, I forgot to mention Santino kind of made a few matches during that opening segment, and this is one of them. He the great hands of the Order 4 will be taking on Matt Cardona and Brian Myers. And to be honest, this match didn't really last that long. There was a few interferences. Matt Cardona was in the ring. The referee was distracted, and then some tall guy, as a part of Order 4 security, comes into the ring. Does like a tree choke slam to Matt Cardona, and for once in their lives, the Great Hands win a match. I've been saying that after, on my pre-show to Slammiversary. Yeah, I'm gonna mention it again. Make sure you check out the video and let me know what you think. But the pre-show to Slammiversary, I said after they did the Tasha Steelz kind of retcon-y thing, it will be important for TNA to kind of show that the Order 4 is strong. Right? So getting this victory over the Primetime Players or whatever their name was, I don't recall what their names were in the WWE or a couple years ago in TNA. Over Matt Cardona and Brian Myers gives a more legitimacy to what Order 4 is doing here. Hey, maybe that fantasy booking ain't too far off. So to end the show, we had Hendry versus Santana. And I've been real critical of Hendry. I'd say that, if he's going to be at the top of the card, he needs to improve his wrestling. Yeah, in ring, I don't really rate the guy that much. Well, it's funny because this match, he brought his wrestling boots for sure. This is probably his best match that I've seen in a year or so. Him and Santana, they get it on. It was a real good match. It was your typical match, though. Santana hitting him with frog splash that he calls the poppy splash, the rolling buck 50. Hendry doing a lot of his like fireman carry slams, his Olympic slams. It was a good match that ended up in them doing dueling and countering roll ups until Mike Santana essentially got the 1, 2, 3. And after the match, Hendry's kind of staring at Mike Santana hard, and they're shit. I'm sorry. And they essentially end up shaking hands, right? Um, they end up shaking hands, and that's kind of how the episode ends. And now that I think about it, maybe I'll review a little bit of episode of Explosion real quick. There was an explosion match. It was Mila Moore versus Jada Stone. Now the results of this match has kind of circulated around the internet for a while because it resulted in both of them receiving contracts from Carlos Silva and Tommy Dreamer. But to actually watch the match, I don't remember how long it was, maybe around 10 minutes. So they got to really show their stuff in this match, and especially Mila Moore, who in her previous matches, I kind of was like, I don't know what they see in this girl, this woman. But this match, um, she was using her size very well, scoop slam. She had a presence, a heel presence. They kept hinting that she's been hanging around the Elegance brand. You know me, I'm a big fan of the Elegance brand. Um, so she was really good. She ends up getting the victory, and Jada Stone, she's a really good wrestler, very quick, very explosive, very acrobatic, and it looks like there's two really good additions that have been added to the TNA Knockout division. So hopefully we get to see more of them and get to see more of them often and soon. Also today, TNA has released their documentary on Slammiversary. It's available on TNA Plus. It's available only to the annual subscribers. So I'm thinking about checking it out. Whether it's worth a review or not, will will determine if I find the content compelling or not. Um, but you know, uh, maybe I'll let you know and give you a heads up. But in the meantime, I think that's going to be it for the show. Remember, please like and subscribe. You know, comment. Let me know what you think. I'm still trying to figure this little podcast out. So thank you for listening. Thank you for participating and let me know how y'all feel, y'all. Hit me up in the comments. Bretty Bungetty. Bye bye.